Hey everyone, my name is James and welcome back to Chippy Gaming. So it's been just over 2 years since my last tips and tricks video, but since posting that, every time I learn something new, I've been writing it down, and today I present you with 20 fantastic tips and tricks that you can start using right away. As always, if you learn something new, consider giving the video a like, it just helps get the word out there, and if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I want to keep this series going, and I have a feeling we'll have a lot to learn with the release of 1.4.5. For now though, let's jump into it. First off, let's talk about getting more inventory space by using class loadouts. Now, we all know you have one slot for the accessories you're actually using. You have one slot for your social accessories, and if you're running low on space, you can take one from here and put it here. There is a limitation to this. You can't have the same accessory equipped and then also in the vanity slot. It just won't go in. So if you're in a pinch, you can swap to a different class and then use one of these slots or one of these slots. If it's early in your adventure and you've got a big descent that you need to do, maybe you don't have a cloud in a bottle yet, maybe you don't have a lucky horseshoe, rather than spending time placing lots of rope like this, which is both time consuming and you also do need rope as well. If you're in an area with back wall like this, I mostly do this in the jungle. I like to hold up as I'm falling and then place rope beneath me like this. It's good in areas where you know it really is a big drop like this. Or, like I say, in the jungle, works perfectly. If you're in an area where you don't have back wall, you can always use cobwebs instead. So take a big jump like this and then place it at your feet. One of the huge benefits is the fact that cobwebs break, so it's not leaving lots of rope behind. And if you're breaking it and picking it up, then you have an endless supply. If you don't read update changelogs and you've been playing the game for a while, you might not know this. When fighting the Old One's army at the end of each round, you'll see a countdown ticking down above the crystal. But if you're in a rush and you're farming, you don't have to wait for that countdown. If you right click, it will actually skip the countdown. Now, the YouTuber Colto said this is a joke in a YouTube short, but since then, I've unironically done this with every fresh world. Their tip is to keep an eye out for the first slime you see in your world and chuck them a copper short sword. Just like this, and like that, you've got a squire slime. This tip isn't going to change your life, but if you're like me and you forget to get this town slime, getting it straight away, I think it's a win. And he is adorable, you have to admit. Now, before we go on to our next tip, I'm very proud to say today's video is brought to you by the official Terraria PC from Starforge. If you haven't seen this before, what they've pulled off here is an absolute work of art. It's so beautiful. Right now is their big summer sale with savings to be had across the board, but there's also additional savings to be had by heading to starforgesystems.com/chippygaming. So whether you decide to pick up some of the accessories, the case on its own, or let Starforge build you a really amazing PC, you can save up to an additional $100 off just by using my link. And recently, if you didn't know, they launched the Moonlord edition with some absolutely wild specs. Even the regular bundle got an update and now includes a 9070 XT for the same price. They ship to lots of places around the world, include 30-day free returns, there's a 2-year warranty, and you can learn more by heading to the link in the description. And just know, by supporting them, you're supporting the channel and also supporting Relogic. We all know that fishing is pretty time-consuming, so it's a good idea to really maximize your fishing power wherever possible. If you're sat in an inner tube while also in the water, you gain +5 fishing power. It's brilliant, but it requires finding that accessory. A good alternative though, a great tip some would say, is to just sit on a toilet. Sitting on a toilet, unless it's a golden toilet, I don't know why, you get +5 fishing power. Drinking an ale or a sake also gives +5 fishing power as well. So being drunk on the toilet, it's the best way to fish, for whatever reason. If you want to earn some extra money in early pre-hard mode, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. One simple thing you can do is capture, cook, and then sell critters. For example, if I grab this bunny and this bird and this other bunny as well, they all sell for 5 silver as standard, but if you take them to a cooking pot and turn them into a roasted meal, a fine bit of delicacy, these will all sell for 20 silver as standard. And keep in mind, a happy NPC will buy for slightly more as well. If you're in a town with 3 NPCs or more, placing down a water candle or taking a battle potion increases the amount of critters that spawn. Also keep in mind that the majority of the time you can grab yourself a water candle before you've done Skeletron because they spawn quite high up. These next two I learned from S-Bubby's incredible video about speedrunning. I'll have a link link in the description. But these two specifically, even if you're not a speedrunner, are very useful. Here we have a very obvious dead man's chest, but we all know sometimes they're not that obvious. Now to show this, I've placed down a regular gold chest and put an item inside, and you'll see when I strike it with a pickaxe, you get these particles that come off the chest. But when you do this with a trap chest, there are no particles. So very easily then, if you're in a pinch and visibility isn't that great and you're a little paranoid, all you need to do is strike it with a pickaxe. That's so cool. Now, I've seen people do this with DOG in Calamity, but I didn't realize it had any practical use in vanilla. When fighting the pillars, once you've reached that stage where you've defeated enough enemies and the barriers have been broken, if you don't want to hover around the pillar as you take it down, one of the things you can do is snipe it. And the way to do this is to overlay the minimap, and then if you're firing in this exact direction where it shows you the pillar, you will be hitting the pillar. Although for this to really work, you want to make sure that your projectile isn't being affected by gravity. So a gun with bullets, great. And look at that, the pillar's gone. Let's talk about Shimmer, because if you aren't using Shimmer to its maximum potential, you really are missing out. Firstly, if you didn't know, Shimmer will always be the same side as your jungle, somewhere between the ocean and the jungle. Terraria has a great video on how to use math to find the Shimmer. I'll leave a link to that in the description. Now, most of you will probably know that you can get permanent upgrades from Shimmer, like a life crystal becomes a vital crystal, a mana crystal becomes an arcane crystal. All of these are really nice to have. However, my tip is to focus on getting the peddler's satchel as soon as possible. This one increases the items sold by the traveling merchant by 1, and if you do this early, you can get the benefits of that throughout your whole adventure. When it comes to farming, Shimmer can speed things up quite a bit. If you want a full mining set, but you're only getting mining shirts, throwing that in will turn it into a set of pants. If you want a different emblem, rather than needing to refight the wall of flesh, throw that in, you can re-roll it. A Bezoar should become a bandage. A blindfold can become a mirror. After the Moonlord, you can turn a Rod of Discord into a Rod of Harmony, and you can turn a Clentaminator into a Terraformer. This tip is great for multiplayer. You can Shimmer recall potions, and it will give you back Specular Fish. Then combined with Blink Root, you can craft Wormhole potions. But actually, you might not want to decraft those recall potions, because my next tip is to use them over a magic mirror. I get so many comments about this when I'm let's playing the game. People just assume that I've forgotten I've got a magic mirror. Recall potions, if you didn't know, are actually faster than a magic mirror. I'll show you the difference. This is a recall, very quick. Magic mirror, much slower. Look at that, instant. Look at this, it's slow. Renaming chests is always a good idea to stay organized, but did you know you don't need to have text here? You can have an item pop up instead. To do it, you need to know the item ID of the item you want to display. Then it's open bracket, I, colon, the ID. I'm trying to think. I think it's 313. 313, and then a closed bracket. There you go. It's a day bloom. Oh, and there's a bonus tip if you didn't know. If you open up the chat box and hold left alt and click on an item, it'll put that item in the chat. Now, I've been guilty of this one myself, but this next tip is to not sleep on statues. Setting up an AFK farm before Skeletron is actually really easy. What you want to do is hold out a pressure plate so that you can see natural wires and keep an eye out for a dart trap. Make some minecart tracks, and then with a pressure plate, you can make a pressure plate track. That's going to be our like switch activator. Place the pressure plate one right here. We're going to put some minecart tracks on either side of it. We're going to hammer those until they're bumpers on both sides. Right next to us, I've built a box so that we can trap whatever was summoned. I'm going to put down the corrupt statue, place a summon inside the box. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to AFK farming statues, you need to deal the damage to whatever you've spawned to actually get loot. Right click on the minecart track, hold left or hold right, and now if you sit here, it's going to do all the farming for you. Now, the reason I mentioned these 4 statues in particular is because they all have good drops for pre-hard mode. For example, goblin statues can get you tattered cloth, which then makes a goblin battle standard. You don't need to spend time in the ocean. Same with the shark statue, that can get you shark fins, which you can then use for hunter potions. Eater of Souls will give you rotten chunks, and also, rarely, ancient shadow armor. And finally, hornets can give you stingers, and maybe even a Bezoar, which will stop you from taking poison damage. Alternatively, bringing empty bottles to the jungle is a good idea, because if you find honey, you can make an endless supply of bottled honey, which not only cures poison, but also gives a buff. Plus, just stepping in honey does the same things, so bringing some empty buckets so you can take some with you is usually a good tip. The final one I want to mention is a life hack I brought up in the last video 2 years ago. I showed a tweet from Red where he mentioned using wooden doors to barricade off certain parts when you're mining and exploring. And now that I've played hardcore Terraria with him and I've seen him do this trick in person, I've got to say, it's actually pretty good. Wow, this door method is actually on point, innit? Look at that. Like, you've just saved us from getting ambushed from that blue slime, yeah. That's it for today, but I'm always on the lookout for more tips and tricks, so if you have any of your own, please leave them in the comment section. Also, don't forget to check out today's sponsor, Starforge. That's it for today, though. See you in the next one. Peace.